here live at Bills training camp at St. John Fisher. Pleased to be joined now by NFL Network Insider Tom Pelissero joining us, making his way through Rochester as one of many stops on your training camp tour. What do you do after the tour is over? Do you just lay down on your couch for 2 days and tell your wife chips and beer like every 3 hours for the next day?
It is an awakening when you get back because it's so go, go, go. We're live literally all day from the start of Good Morning Football at 7 a.m. Eastern through Total Access, which I think goes to 9 p.m. Eastern. So like 14 hours a day.
Right.
And then we hit August 10th, and it's, what do? We replay preseason games all day. And that, of course, gets way higher ratings than anything involving me, which is really also a good way to humble myself and remember.
Nobody watches us until we have guys like you on. So it's just, when it's just the two of us, like everybody turns us off as well. Same thing. Give us an idea of what you're seeing around the league, trends or what grabs you going around the league, if there's any common denominators or things that you noticed this year that you haven't noticed in the past.
Well, I think that the practices are shorter and lighter from just the first few days of camp. Obviously, the first day the Bills are in pads. That's all legislated through the collective bargaining agreement now. But, I mean, we're talking an hour 15, just like it was in your days, Steve. I'm sure it was a very similar early start of training camp.
I don't want to get into it, but yes.
There's nothing even, close to that. There's teams that don't do any competitive drills the whole offseason.
Right.
And so you're just kind of ramping up into it. I think that, too, this is the time of year where inevitably there's a lot of optimism because, most teams, you would like to think all teams didn't construct their roster to think they're going to be bad. They all have things to be excited about. But there's some really competitive divisions on paper out there. I think that the AFC East is going to be one of them. The Bills have ruled that for quite a while. But you don't bring in Aaron Rodgers thinking you're not – forget about the division, that you're not making a Super Bowl push. The Dolphins, taking a step forward last year and what they can be with a healthy Tua Tagovailoa.
Even the top teams in this division have some question marks. Sean McDermott's going to be the defensive coordinator now this year. The Miami Dolphins have got Vic Fangio as a defensive coordinator, one of the most highly respected guys in this point in history in the NFL. And, of course, Aaron Rodgers for the Jets.
New OC there, too, though.
New offensive coordinator there with Nate Hackett. There is some stuff going on that leaves some pretty big roles with those three teams that still have the questions to be answered. And, of course, Bill O'Brien in New England.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I would agree. I think that the Patriots are the biggest unknown because they have Bill Belichick there. And as much as they've gone through a lot of bumps since Tom Brady left, if you look at how they're kind of constructed right now, especially with Bill O'Brien coming back, you certainly make the argument that they're as well equipped to try to take that step forward now with Mac Jones in year 3 in that offense that Bill O'Brien has had a lot of success with. They're still looking. They've been talking to every available skill guy. I still think the Patriots add somebody before we get to the regular season here, maybe even a big name.
Right.
But then, the Miami, Vic coming there is going to be a big deal for them. He's one of the best that there is on that side of the football. Losing Jalen Ramsey hurts, but it's not a really corner-dependent defense either. It's a little bit of a luxury item bringing him in. I just think Mike McDaniel's so smart with offense. If he has his starting quarterback and isn't trying to start a playoff game with, help me out,
Skylar Thompson.
I had it at the tip of my tongue. Thank you, Steve. Northwestern zone. You'd like to think that they've got the opportunity to be good. And the Jets are, obviously there's been a lot of attention on Sean Payton's comments. And everybody's going to form their own opinions on that. The one thing that he's right about is when you have the teams that get all the attention and everybody talks about them before they've played a game, just because you add one piece, it does bring that spotlight. I know it's already New York, but it already brings that spotlight onto the team. And if they come out of the gate and they're 1-3 or 2-2 because they got a really hard start to the schedule, everyone's going to be going, it's going to be back page of the tabloids. It's going to be every show leading with it. It's going to be pandemonium, and that's something you're going to have to navigate through.
And that spotlight's going to be gigantic in Week 1 because it's Monday night against the Bills at MetLife on 9/11. And look, I know that Aaron Rodgers has obviously had a lot of success with Nathaniel Hackett up in Green Bay. The bottom line is it's still a transition for him, a transition he's never really had to make before because he's played his entire career in Green Bay. And, oh, by the way, the last 2 openers for Aaron Rodgers have been downright stinkers the last 2 years in Green Bay. What was it, 34-7 to the Saints or something a couple years ago? And last year wasn't. And last year
it was against the Saints in Jacksonville. Wasn't that what it was?
Yeah, it was a moved game or whatever. But either way, it was bad. I know they're hoping for the best there, and he's saying all the right things, doing all the right things. He's defending his coaches, for gosh sakes, which is not something he's done a whole lot in his career either. But that Week 1 it's a transition, no matter how
Right.
you slice it, right?
Well, and that's going to be the thing. It's going to be the first time that you see kind of the schemes. But there's a track record on Nathaniel Hackett. He's been a play caller before. You mostly know what the offense is going to look like because it's going to be the Aaron Rodgers offense.
Mm-hmm.
But absolutely, it's national TV. Think back to last year's Monday night opener, and it was the Broncos. And I think, in my personal opinion, very unfairly, after one game because of a weird sequence that happened at the end and one Nathaniel Hackett surely wanted back,
Yeah.
everyone labeled him. It's too big for him.
Right.
He's ill-equipped. Everyone was killing him. I will always maintain if that game had been played at 4 o'clock Eastern on a Sunday and 20% of the country saw it, it would not have been nearly the storyline. They could
Blip
have
on
dealt
the
with it
radar.
quietly. Instead,
Right.
it immediately was everything. It's going to be the same thing if the Jets, I'm going to say the Packers, it's so many of them there. If the
Right.
Jets come out and they stumble in that game and the Bills steamroll them, you're going to have a hyper focus going into that following week, and that's just kind of what you buy into when you bring that guy in.
So we're here at St. John Fisher. You've watched a little bit of the practice, and you're like us. You look out and, okay, who looks good, who looks bad, what's the story? What's your take on, the early point here and first day of pads? I've called last week. I said it was the embryonic stages of the season. It's not quite that now. What do you think?
That's a very good term for it. I like that. I would say I try to ask people who know a lot more about what they're looking like than me, and the things that I keep hearing are, number one, for all the drama surrounding Stefon Diggs, and he brings that on himself because he enjoys it. He likes people talking about him when it's not football season. When it's back to football, he's been really good. You see him out here. He's talking smack back and forth to John Butler. He's leading every drill. He's the guy. He looks like Diggs. Him and Josh have been on the same page. That's a big deal. Some of the new additions, Trent Sherfield's a guy who's probably not going to get talked about a lot, but he's that pure speed threat type of guy. Maybe brings a different element. Sounds like Dalton Kincaid has been really good.
Story of
I
camp.
like how they're going to move those two guys in terms of Dalton being that F movement type of guy. You'll move him to different spots. You're going to keep Dawson being that Y tight end. That's really not a combination they've had at that level. And Dalton Kincaid's a really good pass-catching tight end. And so the way they're going to be able to create some mismatches with that, I think, is a big deal. James Cook sounds like he's had a really good camp. You fumble on the first carry of your career,
Yeah.
and then after that, it's kind of like it's this in and out. He's
Sticks
getting
with you.
4 carries a game, but you saw what he did against Chicago last year. He ran
Right.
for 99 yards.
Yep.
He got a bunch of touches in the in the first playoff game. He, as much as they brought in Latavius, they brought in Damian Harris, I think that James Cook's got a really good chance to come out and be a big factor, especially with Nyheim Hines lost for the season, because James, in that pass-catching type of role, maybe even more so than his brother. Dalvin's one of the best backs in the league and has been for a long time. What James brings in the pass-catching mode is, it's not Nyheim, but he's probably going to be able to do some of those same things.
He was lining up outside the numbers at Georgia. Like, it's not
Right.
foreign to him at all.
Yep.
Steve touched on it. I want to get your take on it. Sean McDermott, defensive coordinator, calling the plays. We've talked to some of the players. They say when we're in the meetings with him, he says, I'm not the head coach. I'm the defensive coordinator. We asked Ron Rivera at the Combine, what is your description of Sean McDermott as a coordinator, having him down in Carolina? He had one word: aggressive. So he's talked here in camp about wanting to be a physical defense where the opponent knows they played the Bills. We've heard aggressive for the people that have worked around him. What are you kind of anticipating from him in terms of putting maybe even a little bit of a tweak on that system, which is largely expected to remain the same?
Well, Sean learned under the late, great Jim Johnson, and he was very much an attacking, blitz you, in-your-face type of a defensive coordinator, and a really good one for a long time. Leslie Frazier, who's one of the best people in all of football, obviously. He's actually working for us this year, working for NFL Network. I'll be out with him, I think, in a week or so out in L.A. covering the Chargers. He comes from, even though he played in the old Bears defense, the Buddy Ryan, like his coaching background is Tony Dungy, Tampa 2. It's four-man rush. I think that Sean's always had, some level of his fingerprints on this defense, but just in terms of how he calls the game, I think he probably is going to err toward the aggressive side. I don't know that you need to, send 7 every time, especially if Von Miller comes back and looks like Von Miller again. But absolutely, just in terms of the exotics and the blitz packages and stuff, that's really what the foundation of Sean McDermott as a coordinator has been. And I'd imagine he brings some of that stuff to the table there.
One of the things, the Bills are kind of set at running back. You talked about it with James Cook and Latavius Murray. So the Bills aren't really exposed to this problem the way it's come into focus this year, but the running back position has been at the forefront of, I don't know, it's not controversy. It's just a huge story that nobody cares about them anymore, right? They used to be important MVP type of players in that running, and it has gone very quickly to an afterthought.
And I think you still have some of those MVP-type guys. They'll have MVP-type seasons. When Derrick Henry runs for 2,000 yards, he is the most valuable player on his team and one of the most valuable players in the league. I think that there's a variety of different factors here. One of them is, since all those big deals got done 3 years ago, it was McCaffrey, Dalvin, Alvin Kamara, Nick Chubb. Nobody signed that big deal. Well, what happens is when nobody is signing the $12, $13, $14, $15 million per year contracts, it drives down the franchise tag number. Now the franchise tag becomes a weapon for the club, whereas for other positions such as quarterback or linebacker, it's very much a weapon for the players. It's not all franchise tags are bad. It's that in this case, because Saquon doesn't take a deal, Josh Jacobs doesn't take a deal, one way that you can try to affect the market is band together, nobody takes it, and try to force the market to go a different direction. Another way would be sign those deals. It will boost the franchise tag number, and all of a sudden it brings the market up. I actually went back, just out of curiosity, a week or so ago, and I pulled up the 2013 salary reports that I have, and just looked at the highest paid player at every position. The two positions that have not really significantly risen, even though the cap has grown like 89% in that time, running back is one. I think everybody knows that Adrian Pierce was making $14 million in 2013 per year. Now it's McCaffrey at 16, and that has to do with a lot of different factors, including the Shanahan-McVay outside zone system, which is more scheme dependent than back dependent. Those guys, even though Kyle Shanahan has Christian McCaffrey making a ton of money, he uses him in different ways. More teams are seeing the value of just get a bunch of backs, let them all go duke it out, get them on low money rookie contracts, and then cycle out and bring in other ones. The other position that hasn't grown significantly in that time is cornerback, where Darrelle Revis was making, I think, around 16, and now the highest one's 18. It's something like that. And you think back, well, what changed in 2013? The Seahawks won the Super Bowl playing cover 3 every snap. So that's a very zone-dependent team. Now all of a sudden you got all these other coaches who came out of that system running variations of it. You don't have that corner that suddenly is making $30 million per year. That's not to say there aren't really good guys, but you're seeing less, not that you don't see it at all, but you see less pure man type of schemes with what Revis did. So I think it's fascinating. A lot of this stuff is cyclical. I don't know that we're going to get back to a phase and all of a sudden running backs are going to be making $30 million per year. But I think that a lot of this is just kind of, let's see this thing through here. Let's see who ends up in free agency. Let's see if these guys get tagged again. And their tag number the second time around goes to $12 million per year, or $12 million for the second year. It'll be interesting. Saquon's there, Josh Jacobs isn't, and that's going to be one storyline we're going to be following all the way through to the season.
DeAndre Hopkins said he wanted to play for a contender in an ideal world. He ultimately takes the money in Tennessee. Dalvin Cook says he wants to play for a contender.
Are people bitter here about that?
It's fine. I'm not. I mean, it doesn't bother me. I'm sure it bothers some fans that thought they were going to get him.
You set that up in such a way.
Yeah, but that's fine. But my point is, now Dalvin Cook says he wants to play for a contender too, but he goes and sees the Jets. Everything's great. I'm going to buy. I'm going to hold my water here and see what my options are. There's been a lot of talk around the AFC East for him. Dolphins, where we can go home and play for Miami, but there's no clear-cut path to the number one job with either of those teams. If Breece Hall's healthy, sooner rather than later, he can play. They have some other options at the back position already with the Jets. We know the Dolphins have a backfield full of guys that already know that system. I don't think there's an ideal scenario for him, so does he wait for the money?
I think that there's multiple things here. He has significant offers.
Okay.
He is not going to come in on a low-money contract. It's going to be a significant contract for Dalvin Cook. I'd be surprised right now if he doesn't land in this division.
Okay.
Not Buffalo, but any of the other 3 teams are a potential factor there. I think with Dalvin, it's a lot of different things. He's still only 27 years old. He's been to 4 straight Pro Bowls. He should be getting paid at a good level. Just got his shoulder fixed, so he's in better physical shape than he's been in quite a while here. In terms of contender or not, it's he, in his mind, I know Dalvin pretty well from covering him a long time. I live in Minnesota. He's always going to think he's an X factor who will make a team a contender. That Dalvin being on the field because of the home run hitting ability and what he brings to the table, that he can be that guy who boosts a team. I think that any of these teams, the Patriots again are the unknown in this whole deal, but the Patriots with Dalvin Cook are a better team than the Patriots without him. It's going to be fascinating to see how it plays out. I don't sense anything is imminent right now. And he may wait this thing out and get a little bit closer to the season because there's also injuries all over the place. You saw Seattle had a couple backs go down the other day.
And then you
never know, and all of a sudden somebody might become desperate, and that changes the numbers.
Right. Tom, thanks. Appreciate you being
You
with
got it.
us.
Thanks, fellas.
Yeah, we know you're busy, so thanks for
Thanks
giving
for
us
having
some time. We appreciate it. That's Tom Pelissero, NFL Network Insider.